Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Benchley Night. As I said earlier, as I posted earlier, this is a bit of a sad evening here on Hadley Street here in Bellows Falls, Vermont, because Yorkie, well, her actual name is just York, but Yorkie, also known as Yorkadork, also known as Yorkette, Yorkette. Um, she is probably on her way out. She is behaving very passively, as passive as she gets. Um, she's behaving, she's very, very quiet. She's sort of staggering a little. She's not really drinking her water or eating her food. She's very, very quiet. It is getting time to say goodbye to your cat. Your cat came to this house in 2008 when Silas's mom, not really Silas's mom, but Silas thought it was his mom, when Meriwether breathed her last, she died right in that doorway. And I'm hopeful maybe that's where Yorkadork will give up the ghost too, because it's best to have your cats die at home, don't you think? But anyway, Meriwether moved on to her next great adventure, and Silas needed a cat. So I went to the used cat store. Now, the used cat store, ladies and gentlemen, in this area was called TARPS, which stood for something like the Animal Rescue and Protection Service. And actually, it was crazy cat ladies who really just wanted to hoard cats, but they ostensibly were rehoming them. And York came from that place. And when I took York in for her first vet checkup, they said, "Oh," and before I got York, they were like, all our cats are absolutely up to speed with all their shots, and we're going to very carefully vet who we let have our cats." And when I finally passed the test and took York into the vet, they were like, "Oh, this cat hasn't had any shots." So since 2008, she was 3 years old in 2008 when we got her, and she had lung issues then, because all the cats from TARPS had been exposed to some lung thing that causes them to have snot and difficulty breathing. And the vet said she's probably, she's a small, weak little cat. She's probably not going to live beyond 12. Well, she's either 19 or 20. And it's like having a member of the Italian, it's like having Lucretia Borgia as a member of your household. Because York is not affectionate. She's interested only in power and who has power in the room. And she watches the dynamic. She concludes who has power, and then she figures out how to knock that person out of the position of power. So I have a lot of respect for York. I don't have a soul connection to York, but she has lived here since 2008. She is an integral part of this household. The family that comes and stays with my neighbor every year, they look forward to York coming out, and they pat York and they love on York, and York thinks that is exactly correct. But I'm afraid this year York will not be here anymore. So she's on her way out, but she's on her way out on her own terms, ladies and gentlemen. She's in the bathroom right there. I have a nice little bowl of fresh, cool water for her. I have some nice pudding-like food that might be cool to her fevered esophagus. I go in there and I pat her and I say, "It's been an honor to share your house with you since 2008. She looks at me and says, "Fuck you." So she's going out on her own terms, ladies and gentlemen. She's going out on her own terms. And I asked her, should I cancel tonight? Should I just be quiet? She looked at me and she said, "I don't care." I don't care. So I thought I would go ahead with Benchley Night. So let's go ahead with Benchley Night, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead. We have two very short little Robert Benchley pieces. First is called How to Go Insane. And actually is very similar in content to the James Thurber piece where he wakes up in the middle of the night trying to remember the name of Perth Amboy, New Jersey, and can't. I notice a through line between these two pieces, ladies and gentlemen. How to Go Insane. One of the easiest methods of acquiring insanity is word examination. Just examine a word you have written and then call up Dr. Jessup and tell him to just come and get you. Tell him to wear just what he has on. It doesn't matter. Let us take a simple word like oakum, O-A-K-U-M, or delve, D-E-L-V-E. Write it out on paper, and then look at it steadily for half a minute. You cannot believe that there is such a word. On the other hand, you know that there is. You know that people have been using the word oakum or delve for centuries. And if they look strange to you, you probably look strange to them. That's what gets you down, son. You can do it with even such an unpretentious word as though. Just look at though and try and figure out if you've spelled it correctly. The longer you look at it, the more you are convinced that you have got it wrong. Not only all wrong, but fantastically wrong. You have established a record for bad spelling. You have put yourself into the position of being a drag on society. I would not be one to suggest that insanity is caused by sitting still for a moment and thinking, but I'd be one of three. Just sit still for a moment and think of something, anything. Just say to yourself, if you can bear listening, I will concentrate on frying eggs. I will think about frying eggs to the exclusion of everything else. What am I putting into the pan? What is the force that heats the pan? What is the actual change that takes place in the egg under the influence of the heat? And who am I? Well, we're about it. Just go crazy. Just go crazy. Just examine one of these words on this page and go to town. That's really true. I just reading this right now, looking at the word though, I could not believe. It's like, is that though? Is that through? It was though. The second piece, ladies and gentlemen, the second piece is weather records. I thought that was fitting given the heat dome that is about to descend upon us, or is descending, or has descended. Whatever else this year of grace goes down for in the history books, that's a very, very relevant comment, isn't it, as we enter World War III? Whatever else this year of grace goes down for in the history books, it certainly has gone hog wild on weather records. Now, this, I believe, was 1928. So 97 or 98 years later, it is a completely relevant sentence. You could not walk around the Weather Bureau for the broken heat and the broken cold records. Sometimes they even broke a record for medium temperature just to keep the ball rolling. Of course, when you come to think of it, it is not so much of a stunt to break a weather record. When you really come to think of it, you might go crazy trying not to break one. The wonder is that a record isn't broken every day. Meteorological note. As a matter of fact, one is broken every day if you know where to look. In the first place, There are 1,460 major records each year, all just aching to be broken. There is a heat, a cold, rain precipitation, and snowfall record for each day in the year. Then there are the number of years the Weather Bureau has been keeping records. And the number of weather bureaus? Give up. There is always a slightly cocky note in the Weather Bureau's announcement that yesterday was the hottest May 27th since 1899, on which date the thermometer registered 91 degrees. On reading it, you fall over forward in a belated sunstroke. But they don't say anything about the fact that on May 26th of last year, the temperature may have been 92 degrees. They don't say, yesterday was the hottest May 27th since May 26, 1927. Oh no, they've got to have that record as sleazy as it is. Why not get right down to really unimportant details and say 3 p.m. yesterday was the hottest overcast 3 p.m. on a May 27th to fall on a Sunday since 1887, or more snow was tracked into the vestibule of the Weather Bureau yesterday between 9 a.m. and noon than on any previous day in its 50 years of existence. Statements like this would lend variety to weather reports, besides building up on the supply of record-breaking days. It would also be fun for the citizenry itself to send in little personal weather record breakers for publication just underneath the official statements, such as, at 11:30 last night, all heat records for the guest room of Mrs. Albert J. Uncle in Bell Clapper, Long Island, was broken when the thermometer registered a flat 96 degrees. The highest previous mark set by this guest room was 94 degrees on the night of July 4th, 1911. By an odd coincidence, Mr. George Losh was the guest occupying the room on both nights, and he can vouch for the figures being accurate. Yesterday, besides being the hottest Sunday since Friday, June 16th, 1929, found Mr. Lars Swamberg of 486 Oakroot Street in the oddest assortment of clothing since he last wore diapers on June 11th, 1890. He appeared at 10 a.m. wearing a Swiss alpine coat of some crash material, pajama pants, and a pair of felt slippers. Later in the day, he substituted a sleeveless jersey for the crash coat and replaced the slippers with a pair of rope espadrilles. At 4 p.m., when the thermometer reached its peak, Mr. Swamberg also established an all-time record for the household by discarding everything but a Panama hat and setting himself in the bathtub. Mr. Swamberg feels the heat. There is no reason why the Weather Bureau should get all the credit for record-breaking weather. We, as citizens, can all do our parts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, all right, thank you very, very much. Now, I have been promising for well over a month now to have a very fancy graphic with the names of all the people who are contributing to the Liberal Snowplowing Do-Gooder Fund. Because we are now, we've switched to Substack rather than using Faceplant for fundraisers. And people who subscribe to my Substack are offered a Chrlie Hunter original painting at a severe discount. The painting I offered yesterday was a $2,400 painting. Last time it was on sale. Last time it was in a gallery. Last time it was offered. And I offered it for $450. $450, and it got snapped up like that, ladies and gentlemen. But I offered it only to the paying subscribers. And all monies that we raise go to one charity or another. Sometimes animal shelters when it's time to when it's time to honor a recently deceased cat, sometimes to asylum seekers, trying to keep people who have come to America doing their best from getting sent back by the assholes in power, sometimes to saving manatees, all kinds of different things. But anyway, we're now raising over $7,000 a year, which is great. And why did I get onto that topic? Oh, because everybody's name should be coming up like that. I mean, like Martha Rowley, who gives every week, and Terry Hudson and Catherine Fisher, and all those other people, especially my very, 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 very tall cousin out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. His wonderful wife, Elise, and their little tiny dog, Ginger, but it does not come up because I've been busy with other things. I cracked my tailbone. I bruised my tailbone on Thursday. That is the most darn painful thing that I have never done before in my life. But as my father said after I drank the bottle of tequila and ended up in Mass General Hospital, he said, now you've done that, which means you don't have to do that again. So I do not have to bust my tailbone again. Good to know, ladies and gentlemen. Good to know. You take good care out there. We'll see you next week for another Benchley night. Why not? Why not? Life is hard enough. It's fun to do these, and I really appreciate you guys turning in. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.